she isn't afraid to sing. And she drags us all with her, which is really great because the intention of this Mass is for Father Jerry Brennan. Father Brennan died back in 1992, and he was the director of music at Sacred Heart Seminary when we were there, and I entered the seminary during his time. We sort of had an audition before him, and then he called us all in and said whether we made the Schola or not, and he said to me, "Don't sing." So I've spent my whole life singing, trying to sing. Today is the feast of Saint Bernard, or he lived back in the 1100s. But today's feast is sort of special for us here at St. James, because over on Prairie in this parish, Father Bernard Mullen was raised and became a priest, my classmate. Wonderful handball player, terrific sense of humor, barber in the seminary, good preacher, gave high school retreats when he first entered the priesthood. Then he was worn out by everything that happened and took a leave of absence, was away from the Catholic Church as an active priest for about 17 years. But my classmate, Father Gagnon, was persistent in his friendship, and Bernard came back to minister in the priesthood. Just a terrific guy. Everybody has different gifts. That's what God tells us. This first reading that we had by Mary on Gideon, God calls him my champion. I'm always with you. And Gideon says, I'm your champion, and you're always with me. Everything should be going fine. And yet here we are, overrun by these Midianites. Where you at when I need you? He says, I'm always with you. And Gideon believes it and ends up being the leader of the people, as a judge, as a leader. In my time here, today is also the 5th anniversary of the death of Archbishop Szoka, Cardinal Szoka. When he came to Detroit, he was such a complete difference from our predecessor, Cardinal Dearden. Cardinal Szoka was a businessman, but Cardinal Szoka also was born in a broken family. Sometimes we forget where we come from. And so his approach was rather gruff. But if you didn't have a dad around to teach you how to live as a man, maybe it wouldn't be so easy for any of us. But Cardinal Szoka was a man who his goal was more important than it seemed people, and created some tension in the diocese. But let me just say this. Cardinal Szoka would really make you laugh. Just the way he said things. Just the way he put you in your place. But for me, he'll always be important. He let me go to Brazil. He didn't have priests to spare, but he let me go to Brazil. And then he said to me, I never thought you'd go. You didn't know how to take him half the time. But when I returned And a priest had given me a ticket to any place in the world. I asked my friends if anybody would like to go with me. And I ended up going to Rome with Dr. Bauer. But when we got to Rome, I called Cardinal Szoka because he was then like the right-hand man of finance for the Pope, Pope John Paul II. And then he called back and said, "We want you to come to dinner." He was a very gracious man in Rome. Any priest from here that went there always had a dinner with him. And Dr. Bauer and I went to that dinner, and it was a terrific time as they talked about health. And Cardinal Szoka tells about jogging in Rome. It was such a fun dinner with him. But then he said, "I've arranged for you to go to see the Pope. You're going to be able to go to Mass. You better be here." And so Dr. Bauer and I had a chance to see the Pope, to go to his Mass. And after Mass, as I told you once before, to shake hands with the Pope. When Pope came into the library to shake hands with us and greet each person, give us a rosary, he came up to me and in my best Polish, I said, "Niech będzie pochwalony Jezus Chrystus," as we're shaking hands, which is the Polish way of greeting when you enter into a home. May Jesus Christ be praised. And the response is, "Na wieki wieki, Amen," forever and ever. So as I shook hands with him, "Niech będzie pochwalony Jezus Chrystus," the Pope says to me, "an American Pole." I loved it. I mean, it's something that is a memory forever from a man who opened the door. Sometimes we think we know who we are, and we think we know who other people are. That's the richness that God is talking about for us. Every person is rich, has a wonderful message to give. But sometimes it's really hard to understand that. It's hard to understand how this person gives the gift of God when we think something entirely different is happening. So today in the intentions we'll pray for Cardinal Szoka too, the 5th anniversary of his death. The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
Let us pray.